Dewgong is one of the most unassuming designs from the original 151 Pokémon, but that simple appearance masks a specialized utility that has kept it relevant across decades of competitive iterations. This bar chart shows why it's overlooked. Dewgong has a flat distribution: 70 attack, 80 defense, 90 HP. Top-tier threats have towering peaks, whereas Dewgong has none. Taking double damage from fighting, rock, and electric attacks quickly overwhelms its average defensive base. Because it lacks the high attack stat needed to clear enemies quickly, Dewgong is poorly suited for standard raiding, or casual gym battles. It simply cannot beat the clock. Yet, in formats where match length isn't the primary constraint, its usage shifts. It maintains a Tier 2 standing in Pokémon GO's Great League, and provides a specific defensive option in Gen 2 competitive formats. Making it work requires a heavy trade-off. You have to pour massive, scarce resources into a Pokémon that will rarely score quick knockouts, relying instead on its ability to outlast the opponent in a prolonged battle. Ultimately, its worth depends on identifying a specific meta and possessing the rare resources required to bridge the gap between its average stats and its specialized utility. In Pokémon GO PvP, the barrier to entry for Dewgong is unusually high because it relies on legacy moves, attacks that are no longer in its standard move pool. First, you need Ice Shard as a fast move. It generates energy at a rapid pace, needed to fire off its most important attacks. Second, you need the charged move Icy Wind. It guarantees a drop to the opponent's attack stat every single time it lands, even if they use a shield. Combine the two, and Dewgong becomes a dedicated debuffer. It generates energy quickly and fires off attack-lowering moves before the opponent can ramp up damage. By repeatedly lowering the enemy's attack, Dewgong forces the match to slow down. You win by surviving hits that would normally be lethal, slowly draining the opponent's momentum. But unlocking both Ice Shard and Icy Wind costs 2 elite TMs, arguably the rarest items in the game. Committing those items is risky, because the current competitive environment is often hostile to ice types. Registeel is a dominant force in the Great League, acting as an insurmountable brick wall for Dewgong, resisting its ice attacks while hitting back with super effective damage. Even worse, Walrein shares the exact same water and ice typing, but generates energy faster and hits harder, often outperforming Dewgong in the same roster slot. You can spend your rarest resources to build the perfect moveset, but if you play in an ELO bracket flooded with steel types and superior alternatives, that investment yields zero returns. If you do commit to building one, you have to navigate hidden PvP IVs, the background stats that determine a Pokémon's exact attack, defense, and HP limits. The standard advice for the Great League is to hunt for the rank 1 IV spread. Players typically maximize their defense and HP, while minimizing attack to fit as much bulk as possible under the 1500 CP limit. But maximizing that generic bulk creates a severe problem. A rank 1 Dewgong lacks the attack power needed to win the grueling 3-minute mirror match against an opposing Dewgong. This scatter plot compares standard rank 1 bulk distributions against a much more specialized target, the Breakpoint build, requiring exactly 102.89 attack and 138.28 defense. Hitting these exact stat breakpoints gives Dewgong enough offensive pressure to overtake the rank 1 build. It actually flips the scenario, allowing you to win the mirror match even if your opponent uses both their shields and you use none. That specific attack weight also allows Dewgong to secure a farm-down victory against high defense targets like Umbreon. You knock them out with fast moves alone, saving your charged energy for the next opponent. The trade-off is tedious. You have to check hundreds of stat combinations using outside calculators and accept a slight drop in your total HP. In highly optimized formats, following standard metrics like rank 1 creates vulnerabilities. Opponents who track these breakpoints will actively exploit that missing attack stat to win matches they should have lost. This reliance on extreme optimization extends backward into retro formats, specifically the Generation 2 Never Used tier, where Dewgong serves as a primary defensive answer to the format's biggest threat, Xatu. The standard retro strategy relies on the moves Rest and Sleep Talk. Dewgong absorbs incoming status effects and damage, puts itself to sleep for a full heal, and blindly fires off ice beams while resting. You gain longevity, but you sacrifice offensive momentum. Because Dewgong exerts so little immediate pressure, opposing threats like Kingler can safely switch in, use Sword Strands to boost their attack, and set up a sweep unchallenged. The alternative is the baton pass strategy. You use a teammate like Flareon to cast Growth, boosting its special attack, and then pass those powerful stat boosts directly onto Dewgong, transforming it into a highly dangerous offensive threat. But running a boosted Dewgong comes with a strict requirement. You have to equip the move Protect. If you don't, opponents will immediately send in Weezing or Pineco to use Explosion, sacrificing themselves to erase your stat boosts instantly. In retroplay, Dewgong operates entirely on the extremes. It is either an impenetrable defensive sponge that invites opponents to set up, or a highly telegraphed sweeper that requires meticulous team support to survive. Making Dewgong work requires navigating very specific conditions. Your own player profile should dictate whether you invest the resources. If you are a casual player focused on taking down gyms or fighting raid bosses, look elsewhere. Lapras and Cloyster deliver higher raw damage and require 0 elite TMs to perform their jobs. Spending rare resources on a raid Dewgong is a waste. In Pokemon Go, competitive investment is only viable if you have already secured a Dewgong that hits the precise IV breakpoints, and you have confirmed your local meta isn't overrun with steel types. For players drafting teams in Gen 2 retro formats, Dewgong requires a specific structural commitment. This node chart illustrates a common structural core, Dewgong paired with Gloom and Ninetales. These three cover each other, walling off dangerous fighting, water, and psychic attacks. Dewgong's specific role is using its bulk to absorb psychic hits that would otherwise tear through Gloom. The trade-off is steep. You are dedicating half of your 6 Pokemon roster entirely to defensive pivoting, leaving you with limited options to actually finish the match. Dewgong is a strict specialist. If you expect a standard out-of-the-box attacker, you will be left with a liability. But if you respect the math, build the right team, and spend the resources, you get a tool for controlling the pace of the battle.